Hello and welcome to the Faith is Strength podcast. I'm your host, Nochi Mendel. I would like to thank you for joining me today. The date of this recording is December 22nd of 2019. What's interesting is that I started this podcast almost exactly 3 years ago. My first recording was in December of 2016. And during this time, I recorded 20 episodes up until this point. This is going to be my 21st episode. So I recorded 20 episodes before 2020. It's a little bit disappointing, to be truthful, that I recorded so little, but I plan to rectify that in this coming year. So I'm really psyched. I'm looking forward for 2020, not just in quantity, but also in quality. I recognize that my recordings in the past were not consistent in terms of quality and sound. I finally invested in some new equipment and mics. It's by no means easy to create an environment to record a perfect podcast. Equipment is one thing. Location without background noise or studio is a whole nother thing. So I hope to not only be able to record more, but also to be consistent in terms of quality and recording capability. For those of you who are new to Faith is Strength, allow me to take a minute to explain what it is that we're doing here. Faith is Strength is a podcast that is themed or centered around spirituality and philosophy specifically for the modern thinker, okay? Because we have spirituality and philosophy, but they're all based on very ancient and traditional thought and outlook. So from my perspective, it's like, how do we take that and how do we take the timeless wisdom of our elders and pull that into our times for the way that we think? And we're in an ever-changing world. With technology and other forms of innovation, things are changing very quickly. So how do we take the wisdom of our elders, because we know it can help us, and apply it to the way that we think today, the way that we apply to things today? That is essentially the core mission of Faith is Strength. That is what I essentially am attempting to do. However, because I'm going to have all kinds of personality on the show in the future, I can't guarantee that every episode is necessarily based on spirituality, philosophy, or growth, or even in the self-help category. However, I'll always try to do my best to bridge the gap. As you may know, I've already recorded in the past about business, but even in those episodes, I bring them together because I don't think there's a separation. I think a person who practices spirituality essentially practices spirituality in all of their endeavors, whether that's business or relationship or anything that's going on in their life. So I don't see that separation. I think they all work together. So I'll always try to, regardless of what the topic is, to have a little bit of that spiritual or faith-based perspective on it. And even with the case of this episode, the title of today's episode is called Ohkie. Ohkie is my business, my baby. And I love to talk and share about business because it is a huge part of my life. And at its core, it has nothing to do with spirituality or philosophy. However, like I just said, I'll try to pull my spirituality into it as I see opportunities to do so. So if you're looking for a podcast that is mainly centered around spirituality, philosophy, growth, self-help, development, personal development, emotional, spiritual, and mental development, and hosted by someone who takes a holistic and easygoing approach to all of it, maybe consider subscribing to Faith is Strength. One person who I recently spoke to and who heard one of my latest episodes said or described it as thoroughly introspective. And I think that's a good observation. Most of what I do, especially the stuff that I do on my own, is often very centered around looking within yourself, learning about your character, your emotions, your thoughts, and possibly refining them and changing the way you think. So a lot of what I do really doesn't matter if you're an advanced or new user, right? New spiritual practitioner. It doesn't matter. There will be tidbits of information that you could apply to your life and your journey. Faith is Strength is available on almost every podcasting platform, including YouTube. So in terms of convenience, there should be no issue there. All of our content is available online as well at faithisstrength.com. And if you ever want to support our efforts, you can do that on the website as well. If you or someone you know may want to join in on one of the episodes, has some cool insight within this criteria, They can reach out to us through the website as well. We're open. This is a new platform, essentially. Even though I've been at it for 3 years, it's essentially new. As I've said in previous episodes, it's all practice. So we're excited and open to new opportunities. So now, without any further ado, let me get into Ohkie. This is an entire episode dedicated to my business, to explaining what Ohkie is, what function it serves, and a little bit of the outlook that surrounds it and its industry. What is Ohkie? Ohkie builds custom websites for free. That's right. No jokes, no gimmicks. We build custom websites for free. Anyone who is ready to commit to hosting, who's ready to host a website, can get a free custom website by signing up at ohkie.com, ohkie.com. So wait a minute, where did this idea come from? What is this? So I've been in the development industry for more than 5 years. I started out with my digital agency called Expect Huge. We were a typical local agency that specialized in design, development, and marketing, and everything in between. Essentially, I would help companies with all of their digital needs: graphic design, marketing, websites, anything. With dozens upon dozens of happy clients, business was good. I just didn't feel it. Not that I didn't feel in the sense of the creativity or the industry. I love the industry. I loved the creativity. I loved my clients. I loved what I was doing. I just didn't see a future in it. My mind pondered further than that. And I always had this feeling that someday I would stop doing that. I was just like telling myself, like, this is not the ultimate destination. I'm not going to be this local digital agency for the rest of my life. This is not my future in business. I needed something more. I wanted something bigger, and I didn't see an avenue to something big within my industry. The way that I had thought about it was very one-dimensional. I looked at the industry, and I viewed it as a spectrum. What I saw was a spectrum. On the right side, we have digital agencies who specialize in development and marketing-related stuff. We're all very familiar with these kinds of companies. They charge a fortune. That's essentially what I was, only I didn't charge a fortune. I was a little bit more on the medium side. Not too cheap, not too expensive, but I was a local agency nonetheless, giving really fancy hands-on service. And then as we move a little bit more toward the middle of the spectrum, we have the freelance world with platforms such as freelancer.com, upwork.com, fiverr.com, and a ton of other platforms that arose out of the gig industry. And then more toward the left side of the spectrum, we have companies such as Shopify, Wix, Squarespace, and all of these other building tools, right? So think about the spectrum. On the left side, you have these essentially cheap and free options, which are called building tools, right? They built out technology and even artificial intelligence where you can utilize their tools to do things on your own. In the middle, you have the freelance world where you recognize and acknowledge that you need professional help, but you can't afford local prices, so you choose to manage the project yourself, and you hire overseas people or freelancers who are willing to work for more of an affordable price. And then on the right side, you have the local agency. And when you look at the spectrum from this perspective, it almost seems like it's saturated. The industry is saturated. So now going back to me, I'm in the industry, I'm working in the industry. Looking at the spectrum, I see what else can be done. It's all saturated. It's filled. Is there any open space for a different perspective, a different approach to fit in, a different model to work? And now, after the fact, I know that the answer is yes. But I didn't know that back then. So I would kind of look at my company, look at my future, and say, this is not really going to be my future, because I don't see any way to scale this local model into the global arena. I looked at my model and I said, I don't know how to grow this local agency into a global business. That was until I kind of had like an epiphany. So one of the first things that happened were that I kind of came to a crossroads. Business-wise, I was dabbling with multiple ideas, all of them great, all of them I knew that if I pursue, I could achieve success, but I would have to choose one to focus on. I know through being in business and being self-employed for almost 10 years that in order to really build a business to success, to build a business that is a good business, healthy business, requires 120% And it's impossible to give a business 120% when you're focusing on 3 ventures at the same time. So I was at a crossroads. I said, I have these 3 opportunities. What do I want to do? And the verdict then was that I wanted to focus in on what I had already crafted, and that was Expect Huge, my digital agency. Why start a new venture and give it 120% when I already built up over the course of years industry experience, knowledge, resources, contacts, customers? Let me just perfect what I already have, and then maybe in the future go from there. Now, this came hand in hand with this new epiphany that I had, which is where Ohkie was born out of. There are 2 or 3 main factors what influenced the idea of Ohkie, and I'll see if I can remember them and describe them to you. One of them I know was the fact that I had built a ton of websites, me and my small team, and I was really good at it. I am really good at it. And I had built out processes. It's all about processes and systems, organization, and when you do things over and over in repetition, you get really good at it, or at least you should if you know what you're doing. And there were times when clients of mine had emergencies. So typically when somebody builds a website at an agency, they come to the agency, they want a website, X budget, okay, it'll take X amount of weeks. And that duration makes all the difference. It could take 3 weeks, 6 weeks, 8 weeks, even months, depending on what kind of platform it is. It could go into 4, 6, 8 months if it's a complex project, even longer. There were times when clients had come to me on emergencies and they needed something literally overnight. Now, with all of my know-how and industry knowledge, I knew how to bang out a website overnight. It could have even been customized to meet the customer's needs. It'll look good, so on and so forth. Now, these are the types of websites that would otherwise take agencies a week or 2 to build. I had it down to science, a formula that worked well. Now, I can't say it's very practical at scale, but these are occurrences that factually happened that sparked the idea. So one night, the customer needs something urgent. I say, no problem. I sit up the night, and me and my little team, we bang it out. By morning, the website's up and running. Beautiful. I get paid. Everyone's happy. That was factor number 1. It was, it kind of occurred to me, I'm good at this. This is a certain skill. And also it felt so good. Now let's move to the second part. When you own a local agency and you're trying to sell $5, $10, $20, $40,000 websites, it's not easy. Even locally in the Jewish communities where people are dropping those kinds of monies on these types of projects on a daily basis, it's not easy. I never had a full-time salesperson running around doing these kinds of sales, so I had to sell it myself, and it just simply isn't easy. You get your projects, you just don't get enough projects. And it's always a difficulty trying to sell a quality product, a quality service. You're in competition with a lot of other local agencies. Nothing really sets you apart. Yes, you could explain to the client that your customer service is top-notch. Everyone who works with me knows nobody matches my response time on WhatsApp and email. Our company response time is under 1 hour. My personal response time, my average is probably under 10 minutes. But that's not enough of a selling point. It's not a selling proposition. To get a $20,000 or $40,000 website, it's not enough. What am I going to boast about? Quality? Most local companies who are selling at $40K are giving you quality. So you find yourself in a service company that's trying to sell a quality product, but you don't really have much to offer. There's no reason you really shine. Yeah, I could say I have a better process than other people. I could say I could do it quicker. I could say I could do it cheaper. That is one of the ways I made money. I was cheaper. But, it just doesn't, you don't feel great. You don't feel good about it. And one day it just occurred to me, this was all in combination. Again, I knew I was able to knock out websites overnight. And this all happened in one time span. I knew I was able to knock out websites quick. And I knew that it was difficult to sell these projects. And I knew it felt so good when I was able to knock out a project overnight or really quickly. And I didn't have any expectation. Just the fun of the delivery, it felt so good, which is a lesson for life in its own right. You could do things, we're going to get to that, but you could do things that make you feel good, and you could do things that are profitable, on the monetary side or on the spiritual or physical side, but essentially works the same way. And sometimes you have to choose, what do you want? So I knew how good I felt, and it just came to me like a light bulb. I should build websites for free. I know I'm capable. It feels so good. Why don't I just build them for free? But then, of course, the entrepreneur in me and the business person in me is saying, you're not going to make money. How are you going to make a living if, you're not a charity? You can't just start building websites for free. However, the thought was so strong that I actually wanted to find a solution to the problem it created. And sure enough, I did. After thinking that this is a great idea, the thought of managed hosting came to me. Now, managed hosting is essentially website hosting, but we take care of the servers for the client. Whereas, if you build, let's say, a website right now on WordPress and you want to host it, and you want to host it on GoDaddy, so what you need to do is you need to hire an IT guy or a developer who knows server side to deploy the website on a GoDaddy server, and maybe occasionally maintenance it, or if the website or the server crashes, you're going to hire an IT guy and they'll take care of it. So managed hosting essentially means I'll take care of the server, just like Gmail, just like Shopify. You never have to worry about the server. We have that covered. You just pay your dues, right? Well, Gmail's free, but G Suite, just, the same way that G Suite is ran, same way that Shopify is ran, same way that a ton of services are ran. You're essentially paying for hosting. So I said, I'll do managed hosting, and if you host by me, I'll be able to do a free website. And the idea made sense. And I right away solved a couple issues. A free website is easy to sell. An expensive website is not. A free website, nobody offers. We do. So all of a sudden, the dynamic completely changed. Expensive websites and local agencies you cannot scale into a global business. Free websites and hosting, you can. So all of a sudden, every doubt, every feeling, every thought I ever had about my business and my future had changed. Not only did I find a scalable and innovative business model, it was within my industry, and the thought that I would have to give up on my industry and kind of find something else that I love went away. And that's where the idea of Ohkie was born. It started out with a simple model. It was, a simple idea, and it was rooted in the idea of feel good, feel better, which is very interesting. That's something, an incentive, a free website incentive that is this powerful in the industry that I'm in, was born out of me feeling a certain, I guess you could say, a certain level of depletion. Because when you're sending out quotes to a ton of people, and most of them don't even get back to you, and then the couple who do get back to you try to nickel and dime you, and you're losing money on some of the projects. As I've described in my previous episode series, my mini-series called A Breath of Fresh Outlook, I suggest you check it out if you're into business. I describe over there that business will beat you down. This is one of the ways in which it does it. And I felt a certain level of depletion, like, this is just so annoying, so hard. Out of that feeling was born a beautiful thought. When I build a website for free, there's zero expectation, and therefore I feel so good about it. It's a whole different ballgame. So something beautiful literally was born out of something quasi-negative. Wasn't the only thing, as I said. There were other influences. For example, just practically seeing that I was able to do it and how good I felt the next morning, great. But I think a larger part of it actually came from the opposite side, the negative side. I was feeling a little burnt out from this typical model, this typical approach to my service and industry, and thinking in innovative ways, pondering perhaps to find a different industry where there was a little bit more potential, allowed me to open up my horizons, and I found a way to innovate within my own industry. And guess what? There's no learning curve. So I jumped into a new model fairly quickly without having to learn a new industry, learn a new trade. So after all of this formulation, sat down with my partner, had some discussions, and we said, we're on to something here. We're on to something big. So let's restructure our company, completely rebrand, come out with a new name. And that's exactly what we did within a couple months. We worked out all the verbiage, all the rebranding, all of that stuff, and Expect Huge closed its doors. Hi, I'm Ohkie. I come with more than 5 years of experience in the web development industry. I'm now building free websites. Sure, I'm sure that some copycats are going to spring up, no doubt about it. But right now, I'm operating on a model that is essentially unmatched. As I like to say, nobody's giving you free development hours. Everybody boasts about free, like Shopify and Wix, but it's not free. You're paying for one of two ways to look at it. You're either paying for the tool or for the hosting, but they're not actually giving you free development hours. You have to learn how to use the tool. You have to be a good designer and tech savvy in order to easily maneuver through their systems. And guess what? Being that I'm in the industry, I already know the outcome of such scenarios. Most people who end up on these building tools don't know how to use it. They end up giving up, or they end up having to hire freelancers and developers to do it for them. So wait a second. Shopify comes out, here's a cool building tool. It's free, anyone could go on, create a beautiful website, right? So then why 5 months later did you spend $5,000 on developers if it's all fine and dandy? Because the answer is it's not. Shopify is great for e-commerce, but the content management system, the software behind it, is just a duplicate of WordPress, just aesthetically a little more pleasing. But with their system comes less control. It's not open source. You don't have control. So being that they control the servers and they don't give you access to certain aspects, you're more limited. There's pros and cons, but my point is it's not free. It's a nice gesture, but it's not free. I came up with a model that is actually free. Yes, you have to pay for hosting, but the website, the work we put on the website is actually free, and nobody will give you that. So it's actually a brilliant offer within the industry. I know the industry. I am that company that charged 5, 10, and 20 grand for a website. So by me giving you that same exact value, that same delivery for free, means that you're actually getting free development and design hours. As far as hosting goes, the thing is, if you want to have a website, you have to host it. So obviously we're only working with companies and individuals who are serious about having a website. You have to be ready to commit to host. And the spiel about hosting is like this. You have a very, very popular service called managed hosting. When you go onto GoDaddy and you spend $5, $10, or $15 for a server, what you're getting is a shared server. Essentially what that means is there's a huge server, a ton of clients are sharing it, and that impacts performance. The negative part of that is that it impacts performance. Because say you have 1,000 people on one server, what happens if 100 of those 1,000 websites are experiencing high traffic at 8 p.m.? For some reason, maybe they're running a sale. What happens is when somebody is trying to reach your website during that peak time, your website is going to suck at performance because somebody else on your shared server is having a good day. Shared servers, shared hosting is basically the lowest quality hosting, even though most people are on shared hosting, and it doesn't give you reliable and consistent results. A step up from that is VPS, virtual private servers, and that's what Ohkie does. We only offer virtual private servers. This means that every single website hosted by Ohkie is on its own virtual server. So you're not sharing. Performance is never hindered. Your server will always perform at its best, essentially. Load times will be quicker, and we'll of course make sure that you have a server that is adequate to your website traffic, to your demand. So how much does this service cost? The answer is that it starts at $30 a month. So I didn't want to go high. So many people ask me, why don't you start at 50 or 100? I mean, you're building a free website, so charge more for the hosting. The answer to that is that I'm not trying to sell a fake service here. I'm not trying to tell people that I'm giving you a free website, but really I'm not. I'm actually trying to give people a free website. Hosting aside, I'm actually giving a free website. Now, I don't give the world for free. There has to be a fine print, and there is, but my fine print is clearly on the website, upfront, out in the open, for everyone to read. I also try to make it my business to make my fine print very clear to my clients before they sign up. For example, this is the fine print right now. Of course, things might change because in startups, there's rapid iteration. That means that almost on a daily basis, there's big changes taking place. This is how startups work, especially in the tech world. But in general, in the startup ecosystem, there's a consensus that you need rapid iteration because there's so many things that essentially, I guess you could think of as getting wrong. And in order to mold yourself and position yourself into the company that you need to be in order to scale to your end goal, you need to be able to change big things. It's also one of the things that where bigger corporations stumble and sometimes have like really, really bad and unchangeable setbacks, or essentially catastrophic setbacks. The fact that they cannot iterate quickly. They have to jump through a ton of advisory and board and committee hoops in order for them to approve the smallest thing. So one of the benefits that small startups have is that the chain of command is usually small. So when you recognize an issue, you're able to execute right away on it. You don't have to get approval from higher ups. Anyway, I'm trying to build a model that is sustainable, that is scalable, not some kind of scam or scheme. And the way that I had conceptualized it was very simple. I'll build out a subscription-based model just like every other company, only I'm doing it from a different angle. I'm not selling you a new tool, right? Because the free websites that I build are on WordPress, and WordPress is open source, but it's free nonetheless. I'll give you those development hours. You just have to host it. But there's no way to get around hosting, really, not in the grand scheme of things, because if you have any normal type of website and you want significant hosting, you want quality hosting, you're going to have to pay for it. So I'm saying, come host by me, I'll build it for free. Now that's a model that you could scale. Now you could especially scale it going back to the fine print. If you have a fine print, if you have guidelines, yeses and nos, what I will and won't do. And the fine print right now looks like this, for example. We only do up to 6 pages for free. We only do up to about 6 sections per page. We only do certain types of websites for free. 4 types to be specific. We do landing pages, portfolio websites, e-commerce websites, and membership websites. And then if you want a website that's not one of those 4, we have add-ons. So along the way, you have add-ons. It's not like I'm only building these simple websites that I have perfected. I'm willing to build any website. Again, we build custom websites for free, right? So we could customize. We could build any website on the core, but some of the other types of websites may incur some charges. So for example, let's say you want a little bit more of a sophisticated website, a ticketing website. So let's say you sell tickets, right? Maybe you make a play or some kind of show or some kind of event, and you don't want to use Ticketmaster or Eventbrite because they're a ripoff. Quite frankly, if you're selling a couple thousand tickets or $1 million worth of tickets, you'll lose 40 to 50 grand on a campaign like that, because they'll take a nice couple dollars per ticket, right? And a lot of companies are not willing to do that. So I work with companies who, they want to sell the $1 million worth of tickets, but they don't want to spend $40,000 or $50,000 every single time they run their ticket campaign. So let's say you want a website for ticketing. Screw Eventbrite. Let me just have my own system. That's very doable. So for a website like that, for example, we have an add-on. It's a $1,500 add-on to have a ticketing website. You'll still get the whole free incentive. You'll get the 6 pages for free. You'll get the development and the design for free, but you'll pay for that add-on. So we have, I've essentially monetized it in a way that anything out of bounds will incur some charges. It's still dead cheap and completely affordable compared to competition for the quality that you're getting. It's essentially uncomparable, since you're going to have a reputable and local agency work on it. But that's essentially the model. You have the option to go completely free if you need more of on the simple side, either e-commerce, portfolio, maybe even membership. So if you have a shul, a church, a school, some kind of nonprofit, and you have some kind of memberships, or you want a donation website, right? We do all kinds of websites. Some of them, 4 types are free. Other types we do as well, but there's that add-on. You want to add on more than 6 pages? No problem. It's $200 a page. So I essentially made the fine print so that we don't get screwed. I don't need people coming and essentially taking advantage of this service. And the way that I make sure that we don't get taken advantage of is by creating that fine print. I even, part of the fine print is delivery. How long does it take to deliver? So we give ourselves nice time to plan and then execute. So if you want it quicker, you have to pay for a rush delivery. So I essentially set it up and monetize it in a way for scale, and so that we can't get screwed and been taken advantage of. Yes, I'm essentially offering something so bold that nobody in the industry has ever offered, but I don't want to be taken advantage of. So I set it up in a way that I can't be taken advantage of. And for my customers, it's great. It's absolutely brilliant. Just for some market validation, let me just say that, there was a study of about 30 million business owners in the U.S. About 36% of them said that they did not have a website for their business. Think about that. 36% of a 30 million survey study said that they did not have a website for their business. We're literally going into 2020 now. The way that people find companies and services is online. Like a third of all businesses probably in the U.S. and maybe in the world, because this is a large enough study for you to, glean an overall estimate. Let's just say 1/3 of all businesses don't have a website. Do you understand how significant that is? That is huge. It's almost like saying, 1/3 of America doesn't have a smartphone. They're still on a flip phone or, something like that. And that might even be true. I never even looked that up. But that's how crazy it is. We're going into 2020. You own a business in 2020 and you're not online. Where are you if you're not online? So the market is there, and half of those who said, or a little bit more than half, about 55% of those who said that they did not have a website cited cost as being the factor. So it's not that, they don't think that, 70 something percent of those said that they find a website to be relevant for their company. But the reason they don't have it is because of cost. So we see, despite all of the building tools, freelancers, fancy agencies, cost is still a factor. You know why? Because every serious business owner and anyone who's looked into it knows, or people who have been burnt know, that you either spend a ton of money at the agency, or you hire and try to manage freelancers on your own, which is a nightmare. It could work out, but it's usually a nightmare. And building tools are too difficult to work and figure out on your own. And guess what? The building tools, Shopify, Square, Wix, all these companies, they're advertising beautiful templates. And when you see their advertisement, you think, wow, like I could have a website that looks like that. But they're not telling you the reality. The reality is you're going to get frustrated halfway through. You're going to try to customize things because you know what? No two businesses are alike. Every website needs customization. So when you need to customize the template in a way that the tool doesn't allow, you're stuck with having to hire a developer. So that they're not telling you that when they're advertising their free website or their building tool. The reality is most people who start the website don't finish it. People walk away frustrated. People walk away after spending tens of thousands of dollars and still not happy. And then, even at the fancy agencies where you might spend $20, $40, $60, $100,000 or more, there's no guarantee that they'll make you happy and that they'll give you what you need. It's more likely, but you will spend a ton of money. So in barges Ohkie and says, wait a minute, the spectrum is not saturated. There's a huge gap, desolate land, and that is in between the freelance world and the local agency world. So let me push you over to the side. So I literally took the whole freelance ecosystem, pushed it to the left, and inserted myself there and said, no, now there's four types of models within this spectrum. You have the low-end free building tool model where you're paying for the tool, and then you end up paying for developers, and then you have the developer model, which is you're hiring and trying to manage your own freelancers, which is a nightmare. They're usually overseas if they're affordable, and they go AWOL from one day to the next. And you're not a project manager. You're trying to save money. You're trying to build your company a website. You're not a project manager. All of a sudden now, that's your new full-time job. You're trying to manage a developer who doesn't speak your language. And then you have Ohkie. I'll build your website for free. I'll give you the service of the hands-on company. All you got to do is sign up for hosting. You're committed to hosting by me, I'll put in those hours. So that's essentially what Ohkie is and what Ohkie did. I have figured out a system, rapid deployment, rapid development. Doesn't mean that you'll get your website really quickly. You still have to go through the system because there's a waiting list essentially. So I can't have you sign up today and you have your website tomorrow. We're essentially working on systems and processes so that we can scale. My idea is great. It's cool. Everyone who's seen it, has gone over the business plan, agrees that there's potential there. But to take a company from a good idea, a good service, and scale it, or potentially disrupt a little bit an industry, requires so much more than just a good idea. It requires sick amounts of automation and execution. And considering my model is to be more hands-on and less AI, I have to wiggle and weave out a perfect system, a perfect balance between what we do and don't do. What I mean by the AI is that essentially everyone is focusing, in the tech world, everyone's focusing on artificial intelligence. So every day a new tool comes out. Build your website with our artificial intelligence, insert your 20 pieces of information and here's your website. That's all fine and dandy, and I agree that that's the future of technology. But, there's a big but here. The need for hands-on service is not going away anytime soon. Just like you can't take plumbers and carpenters out of the picture, and you're not going to for a long time, you cannot take developers out of the picture. Matter of fact, development is a great occupation. Why? Because software and the internet is only growing. So the need for customized solutions, hands-on design and understanding is only going up. Everyone is so hyper-focused on artificial intelligence, we've basically neglected the most important part. The fact is, entrepreneurial spirits and startups is booming like never before. Startups need websites. They don't want to waste their time and their money trying to figure it out on a free building tool, but they don't either have the budgets for the fancy agencies. They want good experience, good quality for an affordable price. That's where Ohkie comes in. There's a need, there's a demand. We're here. Free websites. You need an extensive website? No problem. So you might spend $1,000 or $2,000, but it's still a fraction of what you would spend at the agency. And if you need a simple website, it will actually be 100% free. Absolutely amazing for the industry. So what did I do? I said, look, this is a great idea. Let me go talk to some investors. So I sat with a potential investor when I had the idea, and he said, it's looking good. Of course, he challenged 1,000,000 points. I had my answers down pat, and he said, you have no traction. It's just an idea. You have no proof of concept. Okay, that's valid. Let's work on that. So I said, okay, what's a good number that we want to see? 30 signups. Because, I can't go overboard. I have a small team. I have to be able to deliver. But, I'm going to come out public and say that this is a model. And, what am I trying to do? So we said, okay, so we settled. We're going to do 30. 30 is a good number. Because I felt confident that me and my small team will be able to knock out 30 websites within 2 months. So I started a campaign, tiny little campaign, just on social media, primarily on WhatsApp. WhatsApp status. By the way, WhatsApp status is a very powerful tool. I don't even use it effectively. I'm a little bit more on LinkedIn right now, but WhatsApp status is very powerful. So I went into WhatsApp status, and for 72 hours, I promoted a campaign. I essentially said that this is my new model, Ohkie. I'm testing out a new campaign. I'd like to test it on the first 30 people. We're basically in beta. So Ohkie launched in beta. We want to test it on 30 clients. It took 72 hours to get 30 signups just from WhatsApp. And I knew at that point that, I kind of struck gold, if you will. I knew that I was onto something. To get 30 signups, 72 hours just from WhatsApp, I knew that my theory was correct. This is going to be in high demand. This is very much needed. People want the quality. They don't want to spend the money. Hosting is a given they're going to have to spend money on. Bang. So I got the 30 signups. I kind of closed the doors in a certain sense, even though I didn't really close the doors, meaning I closed the doors as in I stopped talking about it because I knew I had to deliver now. I had my 30 signups. I have to deliver now. And so I spent the next 2.5 months delivering those websites, and thank God it worked out well. There it was. I had my proof of concept, and I had a little bit of traction. Of course, not nearly enough. Not enough to get a $1 million investor, right? Because they want to see significant traction. But I had enough to prove to myself that this is legit. If you go out and sell, it could work. It's so easy, from the sales perspective. It's so easy to sell something that's free. You feel so much better. Difference between trying to when you're trying to sell a $10,000 website, you almost feel like you're selling yourself. You're selling your soul. You almost come across as desperate. Even if you're not, you just come across that way. When you're selling a free website, there's no such feeling. It's a feeling of beauty. I don't need you. I appreciate you. There's a feeling of you need me more than I need you, and that's a model that every business wants to operate in. Every business wants to be that business that is needed, not the other way around. Now, I need clients. I want to scale my business so badly, and I am. But I don't operate anymore with this feeling like if I don't get my next job, I'm out of business. It's a whole different model, a whole different ballgame. And it's a lesson. If you could create something innovative, something different within your business that just makes you stand out from the rest, that makes you needed, go bold, come up with something radical, disruptive. The whole dynamic, the whole landscape changes. That's essentially what we did, and it feels so good. So now, we're just a couple months later. We literally just launched in July. We finished those websites. The doors are open. I'm accepting new clients. I'm not really advertising at all because I don't have the team or the resources to back a high influx of clients. I'm actively seeking funding. And as the founder and the person running the show, finding funding is is no easy task. It's quite difficult. It's a long journey. It takes time. Just to get attention from potential angels or investors is very difficult if you're not well connected and you don't have any kind of warm introductions. It's just very difficult. So that's a reality that I'm dealing with. But on the side, I'm slowly building more and more traction in the company. It's great. Clients are signing up on a weekly basis. They absolutely love it. We're delivering websites and growing our company. We're not even at a point of profiting. Of course not, because on a subscription model, on a subscription-based business, there's a pivot point. So in the beginning, your overhead is more than your income, but at some point you pivot into the green. So it's not even about profiting or trying to make the big bucks now. It's a whole different ballgame. It's about building an infrastructure and a system for scale so that when we are properly funded, boom, we could take off. Speaking of funding, Airbnb, we all know what Airbnb is. Airbnb approached between 100 and 120 investors before they got their first check. I'm mentioning that because if you're in business or if you ever struggle with this as well, kind of going through the journey of, I guess we could say that I'm going through now, trying to find funding, trying to find the right person to pay some interest. It's completely normal in the startup ecosystem. I think they say on average it takes 6 to 8 months till you get your first check. You might have to approach 100 to 200 investors before anyone pays attention to you. So this is just a reality of the startup world, especially in the tech scene. Very, very difficult and long journey, long process. But I have essentially built a model that can be scaled, and I'm iterating daily some of the stuff that we learned since we started just a couple months ago. So right when we started, we came out with a really interesting model. Our tagline was, "We are home." And what did that mean? What did that reflect? Well, it was kind of born out of me and some of my co-founders who conceptualized the landscape in a messy manner, and what we essentially felt was that we needed a digital agency essentially that does everything, because that's how I was used to solving things. I always helped my clients with everything. One day I'm doing their IT, one day I'm doing their graphics, doing their SEO, building their site. Like, I'm just doing everything they need in the digital world. And I had always felt that all-inclusive structure or model was needed, but in a global sense. And this is what we thought would be behind Ohkie. This is just to show you how quickly things change in a startup. We literally launched Ohkie, We Are Home. Now, aside from that notion, which was at the core, at the backbone of what we do, we had a free website initiative, which is that we build custom websites for free. But one had nothing to do with the other. There was just one initiative. Since then, we got more and more focused on what our goal is. And our goal right now, everything I say I have to say right now because it could change tomorrow. Our goal right now is to become a leader in the WordPress community. So what I'm essentially trying to do is I'm trying to gain a significant portion or percentage of the entire WordPress hosting world. So WordPress is the biggest and most common content management system, CMS, in the world. I believe that about 20+% of all websites in the world use WordPress. We're talking about active installations of 75 to 85 million, right? So all of these websites are hosted somewhere. So my end goal is essentially to get a percentage of that. So let's say 2%, okay? So maybe 1.5 million subscribers. If I could become a significant leader in the WordPress community for managed hosting specifically, maybe I'll gain 1.5 million subscribers from that aspect. And then there's another aspect, another door that essentially opens within this, which is that a third of all businesses don't have a website because of cost. Remember we said that? So what if an initiative like this is so disruptive that it enables that percentage to drop? Besides for the 1 or 2% of market share I want to control within WordPress, what if I open up the door for a 5% decrease in overall website and overall for companies that don't have websites? To put that into simple terms, I believe that we can reach anywhere between like 3 to 6 million subscribers, maybe even more. But I think realistically, if it's executed, launched, and marketed correctly, we could reach 3 to 6 million subscribers. So that's my goal for Ohkie now. I'm just looking at the subscriptions. I'm looking at managed hosting. That's our core. The more I got clear on what it is that I'm trying to do and how I'm trying to position myself, I started to reevaluate, also based off of feedback, right? I was talking to a lot of people, reaching out to investors, and you hear the feedback, you hear the criticism, you figure out exactly what it is you're doing, what people are skeptical about. And one of the things were the notion that we did it all. Our core concept was skewed, it was flawed. We Are Home was the problem. So after a lot of conversation, we decided, you know what? We're going to scrap that. If all I care about is getting 1 million subscribers or 5 million subscribers, hosting subscriptions, and I plan to do that and disrupt the industry with the free website initiative, forget about everything else. Everything else is just a headache. Everything else is just a distraction. We're not home. All we do is websites and hosting. So recently, we decided we're going to scrap everything. We no longer do design. We no longer do marketing. None of that. And we literally did that. We implemented within 48 hours. Gone. I've been servicing hundreds of clients over the past 5 years. All of their digital needs. Sorry, we no longer do it. I'm kidding. That's not how you relay the message. Essentially, what we did was found companies who we partner with. We call them our partner companies. And these companies who we trust, who we've known for a while, who we know they do good work, and they're committed to our vision, we set up a referral program with them. So we're not simply just walking away from everything. Obviously, we get inquiries about all kinds of digital needs all the time. So we say we no longer do it, but we suggest this is our partner company. Go to them, they'll take care of you. By going to them, you get a little bit of a discount. Most of the companies that we work with will give you a 5% discount, maybe on the first invoice or the first year or lifetime, depending on which criteria it is. And then they'll also give us a little bit of a commission for sending the client. So it's a win-win. We walked away from all these other services. We're now hyper-focused on our core model, building free websites, managed hosting, and if we send our clients to our partners, we get a little, side income from that as well. But now you have to understand, building a perfect model, in other words, to be able to handle hundreds of new customers, subscribers per month, which is what Ohkie is aiming at. We're aiming at that trajectory, essentially, that rate of growth. We want to be profitable in the middle of the second year, post-funding. So if I get funded this month and I launch in January, I want to be profitable in middle of the second year, latest by the end of the second year. In order to make that a reality, we need to reach a certain amount of subscribers, right? This is all basic calculations that you need to be able to do as a business owner. What is the amount of subscribers you need in order to be profitable at scale and at that model? Well, the answer for us is going to be about 5,000. Until then, you're losing money. Now, in the tech world, to be at a loss for 2 years is very good. The big companies that we know about in the tech world, they're at a loss for a lot longer if they ever come out of it. Lyft type of companies, Uber type of companies, WeWork type of companies, Facebook type of companies. It's very, 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 very normal in the tech scene, in the tech world, to be at a loss for many years. I built a model where we could be profitable within 2 years if executed correctly. In order to be able to grow at a couple hundred subscribers per month, we need, my idea, my know-how, my knowledge is all fine and dandy, but when you apply that to scale, does it work, right? Does it work? You might think it works, but at scale, things operate very, very differently as they do when you're small. So with all the extra stuff put away, no longer servicing, and our focus and attention is 120% on the free website initiative, we're able to build out a process that will enable us to be able to execute efficiently at that rate of growth. One of the things people want to know is whether it's proprietary. Is it a technology? The answer is no. The secret sauce, the secret weapon, there's a couple of them behind the scenes, which I can't really share, involve technology. While I might not be selling artificial intelligence to you, I might be using it to help me with proprietary software. Now, for common sense reasons, I can't share it because we don't want, our first copycat. One of the benefits that a company that is not proprietary at its core, one of the benefits that they have is being first to market. Ohkie is essentially first to market with this model. So the further we get our head start before we're duplicated, the better it is for us. So I can't share exactly what it is we have in our back end that could enable us to scale at that rate of growth, but you could be damn sure that we have software, technology, and more than anything, processes, know-how, organization to be able to scale with so many new subscribers, to be able to execute with so many new subscribers every single month. So that is essentially the story of Ohkie. On the one hand, it's so simple. It's a beautiful and magnificent journey, the way that everything unfolded. I'm sharing it to you after knowing this idea for some months and having formulated a lot of it already on paper and on the website and with clients. But the way that it unfolds and the way that it continues to unfold is beautiful. It's very, very different working in a company that you kind of feel trapped by its parameters, by the, I don't know what the right word is, like stigma, by the expectation of your peers in your industry. I believe that within every industry, there's a way to break out. There's a way to innovate. There's a way to be different, which is what I'm doing in my industry, but I'm sure that you could do it in your industry. Another beautiful thing I learned, and I'm learning from this journey, it has to do with minimalism. So being that I'm into spirituality, I obviously know about minimalism, maybe even talked about it in the past, but I never paid tons of attention to it, because there's so many beautiful things in the spiritual realm. Like, spirituality is like walking into a shopping mall. What do you want to do? What do you want to take? What do you want to try? What do you want to tackle? Minimalism is just one of those things, and it was never a huge focus for me. Now, I was never overly obsessed with things, with material, but I appreciate and I like nice things, so I feel like I have a healthy balance. But outside of that, it does seem to build up. Things build up, like when you have in a house, I'm not talking about like a hoarder. I'm not a hoarder. I throw things out very easily, maybe too easily. But you still build up, right? When you live in your house for 1 year, 2 years, 3 years, like just crap starts building up. Maybe an extravagant computer setup, and then an extravagant bookcase with hundreds of Svarim and books, and like things just start to build up. Right now, I never thought too deeply into minimalism. It's something I've known about. It's something I've looked up to and valued, but it was never a part of my journey significantly. Right? I guess I could say I never invested too much thought or energy into it. I just knew that it's a thing, and I understood the value that it serves a lot of people on their spiritual journey. Dealing with all of this business stuff and everything that I described, one of the really interesting takeaways just recently, after cutting out those other services, was the beauty of minimalism. By cutting out these services that I've been doing for so many years, for me, it's so easy to help a client when they come to me and they say, I need a business card, I need a flyer, I need a brochure, I need an advertisement design. Like, it's so easy for me. That's a relatively quick $500 for me. It's such a no-brainer. If somebody says they need a company write-up, if they need marketing, SEO, PPC, whatever they need, it's so easy for me. Like, why shouldn't I just continue to do it? Well, I already explained why I shouldn't continue to do it, because there's a bigger picture. I have to stop thinking locally, right? So I gave it up. But what I found through giving it up is the freedom, minimalism, and it feels so good. Oh, it feels so good. I can't explain it. Going from being the person that does everything to telling people I don't do that anymore. I do two things, and I do two things really well. The sense of organization and cleanliness that it bestows on you is so beautiful. Now, I'm experiencing it in business, but I'm also experiencing it in my personal life because it flows over. I'm trying to point out that minimalism is a real thing, something to pay attention to. I'm not doing it on purpose now. It just happens to be happening right now in my life, and that is what it made me think of. I'm moving out of my apartment. I'm going to be traveling to Israel for about 7 weeks in the beginning of 2020. I want to check it out, places to live potentially. I want to feel the land a little bit more intimately than I felt it in the past. I have a deep love and yearning for Israel. I'll be talking about that in some later episodes. And I had to give up by leaving this apartment, I have to give up my big chunky, hunky computer that I had. I've been working on a desktop computer that was custom built, a beast computer. It was a beast 8 years ago or 5 years ago when it was built. I can't say it was really beasty now, but it's still a powerful computer. You're talking, 20 gigs of RAM, a good graphics card, had about 4 terabytes of space. It was a beast. And I've been working on that for some years. People in my industry, the stuff that we do, you now know that I'm in, the digital world, the tech world, and I'm doing websites and hosting, but I've always been doing, either podcasting, video editing, graphics, and stuff like that. You need a lot of power in your machine. A simple $300-$400 computer doesn't cut it when you're doing this kind of work. So I had to sell my computer. It's like the first time in my life, or my adult life, that I don't have a computer like that. And instead, I bought myself a laptop, a powerful laptop. Let's not make it away. But because I'm going to be traveling, it's going to be more ideal for me to work off a laptop. Again, why am I pointing this out? Minimalism. It's just a weird feeling, but it feels so good to get rid of an entire computer, huge computer with 2 big screens and a whole setup, to give that away and to have a setup that now fits into a backpack. Beauty. I'm not saying it's very effective. If I'm back in the office soon and I need performance and every click matters, yes, I might go back to some kind of setup, but the lesson, the takeaway is still there. Sometimes beauty is found in life with just less, as I described in my business. It feels so good to just know that I'm perfecting 1 or 2 things and I don't do anything else. I was always a huge proponent for quality over quantity. And everything in my life, in my business journey, and in my personal life has led me to what's happening now. Less is more. Simple is profound. Quality over quantity. This is what I'm experiencing now. This is what I'm going through. So by going through this entire business transition, as well as personal transitions, these are one of the big takeaways that I saw. Another thing I want to mention before I cut this out, I had said in my last episode that I was getting married. But by the way, I posted the last episode late, obviously, because I had said I was getting married in a couple of weeks, but I only posted it like a couple weeks after I got married. It gets very tricky when you're recording episodes with bad equipment, and then it has to be edited and things drag out, and life happens, so that sometimes I record, but I can't even publish it until days or weeks later. But in any case, I had recorded that in the beginning of December or November. I did get married in Jamaica. It was a destination wedding. I got married actually on 11/11/2019. 11/11, it has significance for people who are into, I guess, a different, I want to say brand of spirituality, but not really a different brand, but just a different criteria of spirituality. 11/11 has significance. There's the whole twin flame trend. There's a lot of significance there. Anyway, my wife Sharon, she always liked 11/11. People make wishes on 11/11. There's something to it. I never really got too deeply into it because my spirituality is more rooted in traditional stuff, kosher stuff, and very, very significant stuff. I never really delved very deeply into, I guess, what I would call lightweight spirituality. I'm kind of into hardcore spirituality, but in a very, very balanced and easygoing manner. So anyway, I got married on 11/11/19 in Jamaica, and it was beautiful. I just wanted to throw that out there. I actually was talking to my wife Sharon, and I was discussing the possibility. So now that I bought new equipment, I have a new recorder and I have multiple mics, it's easier for me to do it with more people. In the past, when I did it with my sister Ganeshi, we were sharing a mic. It was very difficult. You don't want to see a picture. It was just, the sacrifices, the sacrifices we made to record and practice our podcasting capabilities. But things are looking up in this department. One of the things that I might do is actually do some episodes with my wife. And we could discuss, I feel like there's a lot that could be discussed with a spouse or with a partner. We could go into whole other areas of conversation. Me and Sharon pride ourselves in having great communication, and there's a lot that could be discussed in that department. We could also discuss potentially over destination wedding, which is something that we did. We could discuss moving to a different country, and of course we could discuss relationship related stuff. Of course, it all ties back into health, growth, well-being, happiness, togetherness, and love. So there's a lot coming our ways. I'm extremely thankful. I'm blessed. Feel good about where my business is headed. Great stuff are coming there. I feel great about Faith is Strength and how we're going to continue to build it out. I'm looking forward to all the fun personalities we're going to have on in coming episodes. And I'm looking forward to growing an audience. If you know anyone who might benefit from these types of conversations, let them know about it. Subscribe on YouTube or other channels, and slowly but surely we'll build out and we'll turn it into something fun and exciting and more than anything beneficial. If even one takeaway helps us better navigate life and this world, so be it. Thank you for tuning in. God bless.